Nanelle Griselda and I created a video a couple of weeks ago on why black people abroad are poor. In that video, we shared how lack of financial knowledge, black tax, among other things, contribute to that. And many of you have been very kind to share your own stories as to how these factors have impoverished you. And so I thought, as a sequel to that, I would share the strategy, the formula that can make black people or migrants abroad generally rich in 5 years. But let's face it, attempting to give a formula for building wealth in 5 years is not an easy task. In fact, it's a difficult one because finance is not like mathematics where 1 plus 1 is 2, regardless of where you go to. Personal finance also involves psychology, and how people react or respond to things is totally different, so that it's possible to give two intelligent people $10,000 or £10,000 each to build wealth, and their approaches towards it will be totally different. In fact, it's possible for one person to win and for another to lose. This reminds me of the parable of the talents in the Bible. The master in Matthew 25 who gave talents to his servants when he was going on a journey, and we know how differently each of them saved or invested that money. That is a subject I've recently been very intrigued by. Financial lessons from the Bible that applies to us today. If that is a video you'd like to see, do let me know in the comment section. But also remember to subscribe to this channel so that once that video comes out, you get notified. Absolutely fascinating. So, because of how differently everyone behaves with their money, many suggestions on finance out there tend to be based on principles. For example, spend less than you earn, save the difference, invest for the long term, be diversified. And these are really good advice. Yet for many people, it can be really hard to translate these principles into meaningful actions. For example, when you say that spend less than you earn, what does that mean? How do I go about that? Do I need a budget? How do I draw one? Or when you say I should save the difference, where should I save that money? Which account is going to pay me the highest interest rate? So there's really a place for such granular advice which guides people as much as, it may not apply to everyone. And that really is one of the popular questions that I receive in my inbox. Whether it's, someone messaging me saying, Shadrach, I've just arrived in the UK 3 months ago and I'm keen on building my finances, but I don't know where to start from. Or even the mother in our church who would say that, Shadrach, I want my son to get it right. I don't want him to make the same mistakes that I made. Can you please guide him for me? Or even someone just telling me that, Shadrach, I've been in the UK for over 10 years and I've got nothing to my name. I really want to build my finances again. Can you please guide me? It is really these calls that I've called for this video. So in this video, I'll be sharing with you what I call my formula for financial excellence in 5 years. It should apply to anyone in the UK, US, Canada, Australia, Hong Kong, anywhere else that you are. Really, there will be useful nuggets that you can glean from these. First, why 5 years? 5 years because I think, it's short enough that you can see the end in sight. If you were to start today, you're looking at 2029 or even 2030. But 10 years can feel too long and you may get discouraged along the way. And you can even forget some of the things you've committed to. So 5 years, I think, is that sweet spot, if you like to say that. 5 years also, allows, migrants, in many countries, whether UK or US, by then you'd have got your permanent residency. And so many more opportunities would be open to you and you can explore even further options. Now, let's get into the finer details. The first thing you want to do is to set for yourself a goal, a 5-year goal. What do you want to achieve at the end of the 5th year? And then ask yourself this honest question. For the life that I'm living now, would I have reached that goal at the end of the 5th year? If the answer is no, then it clearly shows that there must be some changes. You have to make some amendments. I've already recorded a video of how I plan to make £1 million by the end of 2030. That specific. I think at the end of last year, we had made about £200,000. So we are clearly on track to achieving that. I'll put a link to that video in the description box below. But that is how detailed and how clear your goal must be. And the goal will be different for different people. For some people, it is because they want to be financially free. But you have to define what does that freedom mean. For some people, at the end of the 5th year, they would want to be able to work part-time without stressing over money. For some people, they want to establish, say, a scholarship scheme at the end of the 5th year. That is what they want to achieve that. So the goal has to be that specific. It is from this overarching goal that we'll set yearly targets to meet in order to reach our objective at the end of the 5th year. So let's get into the yearly targets. Although, I cite them, year 1, year 2 to the 5th year, remember, it is not necessarily linear. It can be fluid for different people. If you feel that, oh, Shadrach, I've already achieved these things, then you can move on to the next one. So let's get into the yearly goal. So year 1, The first thing you want to do in the first year is to subscribe to this channel. I've been in the UK for the last a bit over 10 years, and I wonder what my life would have turned out if not for other people who guided me along the line. I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by people who guided me in terms of finances, who taught me that, Shadrach, do this, don't do this. No, I made this mistake. People who shared their stories with me that guided me. Particularly grateful to Benedict, who is now a pastor. Pastor Benedict was very kind to show me how credit cards work, the mistakes he made, and that I shouldn't commit the same thing. But there are several people who did not have such guidance, and because of that, they made very silly mistakes that, once they start telling you, go like, how could you have done this? Because they had no guidance. So you really want to have that resource, and I hope this channel can be that resource where you can come to really, and that you can learn something from. I hope I can be to you as Benedict was to me, or I can be that big brother, that little brother, that friend who you can ask, that channel where you can learn, about finance from. I know Nanel, shares all this knowledge about migration, nurses, I hope, I will be to you, in terms of finance as Nanel is to you in terms of migration. So kindly subscribe to this channel, and I'm confident that you'll learn a lot. And also share it with your friends who have just moved into the UK or the US or elsewhere. Share it with them so that they can also learn and not make the same mistakes. The next thing you want to do is to build your credit score. You really want to focus on building your credit score in the first year. And I've got a few videos on how to build your credit score, how to boost your credit score, which I'll put a link to in the description box below. But really, that should be your focus in the first year. What does this mean? It would mean registering for an account on Experian, TransUnion, or ClearScore. It would also mean registering to vote so that you have your name on the electoral roll, and then keeping an address. You don't want to be moving around too many times. Of course, if you have to move, then you must move. But you don't want to, do that deliberately too many times because it can hurt your credit score. So really, that should be your focus in the first year, to be building your credit score. Next, you want to draw a budget. And I know this sounds cliche or even academic exercise to say draw a budget. But really, it is important that you draw a budget to know how much you are earning and how much you are spending. You'll be surprised how many people I've spoken to who tell me, Shadrach, I earn £3,000, but I've got no savings because I don't know where the money is going to. We'll go through the exercise. I'll put the spreadsheet out there, and they see the devil in the spreadsheet because, they now see how much, some, lifestyle is actually costing them. And that really is what you also want to do. I'll share my own, spreadsheet with you if you are interested. Let me know in the comment section how you can, plot them to know how much you can save. And then based on that, you see where you can cut down on in order to have some savings. Because really, you can only build your wealth with the money that you do not spend. It is your savings that you would use to build or to propel you into your wealth. If you earn $5,000 or £5,000 and at the end of the month you spend all of it, you would have £0 left. But if you earn even £1,500 and you spend £1,000, then it means you have $500 at the end of the month to build your wealth. So really, it is important that you have a budget to know where you are spending the money and actually sticking to that budget. I know there are some advice out there that, save 10 to 15% or 10 to 20% of the amount you earn. But I'll hesitate in making any such prescription because really, how fast you run depends on what is chasing you. If you are 45 years old and you want to be financially free in the next 5 years, then saving 10% of your income may not help. You want to save a lot more. If you are a single person who earns £3,000, maybe you can save £1,000 or save £2,000 at the end of the month. You want to capitalize on that and save as much as you can, because really it is that savings that you're going to use to build your wealth. On another note, having a budget also helps you, develop a particular habit, a particular lifestyle. I know several people who move into the West, and once they come, they go for, an expensive phone, even buy a Benz. And soon they realize that, this is not sustainable, and they start cutting down on. Of course, there's no shame in that. But if you had a budget, then it would have guided you to know the lifestyle you can afford and that there are no bigger expectations. Because let's face it, sometimes, for the glam, you start, showing all these lifestyle, and all of a sudden you realize that it's not sustainable and it's difficult for you to, backtrack because you've portrayed yourself in a particular manner that you may feel ashamed to do that. I know a few people who started with a Benz and now they are buying Hyundais. dear. Yeah, but of course, that's a joke. But you want to, set for yourself some lifestyle. I mean, there are some things I know I don't do that. I cannot afford that. And I'm humble enough to accept that, well, it's not yet time for me to be doing these things. And you really want to, set a standard for yourself that you know that you can maintain. Towards the end of the first year, you want to get some cheap debt, to help boost your credit score. So whether it's a SIM only contract or a phone contract, I'm not saying go for an expensive one. You could go for a cheap one if you need it, of course. If you don't need it, there's no point going for it. But you can get, a SIM only contract which costs £7 or less than £10. If you have a phone contract that is costing you more than £10 a month, in fact, I'll do a video on that to show you where you can get cheap phone contracts. And you want to do that so that you have something going on your credit report that shows that you are committed to paying it. And that would also help building your credit score. So really, you see that in the first year, our focus really is to build your credit score. One more thing to add, if you are in the UK and you are under 40 years, in the first year, you want to open a lifetime ISA account. I'll put a link to that in the description box below. Whether you are sure you remain in the UK or not, or whether you know you buy a house or not, you want to open a lifetime ISA account and put at least £1 in it. If you decide later that, nah, I'm not going to do this, you stop it. If you're over 40 years and so, or 40 or more, and you cannot open that, it's fine. It only means that you have to work a bit harder. So let's go to the year 2. By this time, you've stayed at your address for a year. Your credit score is, building up gradually. This time, you want to look at credit cards. You want to apply for a credit card because to help boost your credit score. And here I would warn, if you've not seen my video on why you need a credit card, I'll put a link to that in the description box below. Please watch it before applying for a credit card because you have no idea how many people's credit score has been ruined because of credit cards. If you use it well, it will help you build your credit score or build your wealth. But if you don't use it well, it can really get you in some trouble. So I'd encourage you to have a look at that video. But really, it doesn't matter here what the interest rate on the credit card because all you want to do is use it to boost your credit score. As long as you pay it off at the end of every month and you are spending the amount you need, you're not going to get yourself into debt. And so that is what I would encourage you to do. So get a credit card, build your credit score, and also maintain your budget. Ensure that you are putting in the savings. So if you have a lifetime ISA account, you want to be maximizing it. If you've got a cash ISA account, you want to be paying into it. You want to build your savings as much as possible. If it means getting a side hustle in order to, increase your income, if it means changing jobs to increase your income, you want to do that because the higher your income or the lower your expenses or both, then the more you can save. But this is the time you want to be tunnel vision focused. Build your savings as much as possible. Now on to year 3. By year 3, you've built, some substantial savings. You've settled in the country that you live in. You know your way around. You know the cities that you like and those that you don't so much like. You are settling into your job, So at this time, you should be thinking of buying your first home. And here, I'm very particular about the type of house you buy. You are not buying your dream home. You are buying your first home. So you are not buying a house which would impress people. You are buying a house for an investment. And I say this because many of our people, buy bigger homes compared to their family sizes or compared to how much they can afford. And they end up paying so much into interest. That way you'll be losing money rather than gaining some money. But I'm very interested that you think of buying your first home as an investment. I know people who have had homes where, they've used a room or two for Airbnb, or they've used, a room for rental where they've got, a friend staying with them and paying them something. So at the end of the day, the house now becomes an investment because it's also earning them money rather than making them lose money. So you want to be careful about that. Getting onto the property ladder also by the 3rd year is also important because it helps you build equity. I know a friend who bought his house a couple of years ago, and this year he's thinking of selling, and he's already made over £20,000 in profit. I really do not know many investment that will make you £20,000 in 2 years. So you clearly see that if you buy, you buy your own house, then it helps you, to build your wealth. So that is something you must be considering. And that is why in my former video with Nanel, I strongly discouraged people who live, say, in the UK and yet are investing heavily in building mansions elsewhere in their villages. Of course, people's situations are different, but this is my formula for building my wealth. If you think it applies to you, then you can look into it. Because if your goal at the end of the 5th year is to build a mansion in your village, then it could actually be also useful that you build in the UK first and then pull out that equity. In this case of my friend, £20,000. You can use that to start building your mansion at the end of the 5th year. But hey, each to their own. Make sure that the house that you are buying or the property that you are buying still allows you to save, because you don't want your savings to stop simply because you bought a place. If this means that buying a place and renting out a room, then you do that and then you save the money you get from the rent. But you want to be able to still save while owning your property. Now on to year 4, the penultimate year in our 5-year agenda. This time, by this time you've bought your first home and you're happy with it. Fingers crossed. You are still saving, maybe not as much as you used to, but you're still committed to saving, and so you want to continue doing that. So this time you want to start thinking about investing for the long term. You want to start putting some money in the stock market or whatever investment that you want to consider. But I would go for something which is long term and is safe. So I would avoid some quick money schemes here. So this is what you want to be doing at this time. You also want to start thinking about private pension. And I've got a video on those, and I'll put that in the description box below. Because here in the UK, for whatever £80 you put in your private pension, the government adds £20. And if you are a higher taxpayer, you can even get more than that. So really, at this time, you want to start thinking about investing for the stock market or private pension, which is really for the long term. Now to the ultimate 5th year. Ta-da-da! You've lived in your house for a couple of years, you've built equity, you've got some substantial savings on the side, your stocks and shares is, hopefully performing well, and then you've got some money in the pension. So you are in a good place, really. If you fixed your mortgage for 2 years, it means at this time you are ready to pull out some equity out of it. I've told you of my friend who is able to pull out about £20,000. At this time, you've got some money to do that. You can pull out this money and buy another property and recycle it. Keep on doing that over and over. If your plan was to build, a mansion in your village, now you've got some equity. You can go and build this mansion. If yours was to start a scholarship scheme, you've got some money. You can use it to start the fund. If yours was to help your brother, whatever you want to do, now you've got at least 20,000, even 30,000 pounds to do that. Of course, if your goal was to be financially free, then you would have had these savings and you can use to overpay your mortgage, or you can use to pay off your mortgage. If you've not seen that video of how I paid off my mortgage in 2 years, I'll put a link to that in the description box below. But that really was my strategy. And so that is what I'm also recommending. And I know some people would say that, Shadrach, this formula is too simplistic. It will not apply to everyone. Yay. But I told you from the beginning that this is my formula for financial excellence. This is my blueprint. And if you would like to adopt it, I encourage you to adopt it. I make some assumptions, which you may also have noticed. For example, I do not consider your previous debts. I do not consider your visa renewal applications. I do not consider, your holidays. These are deliberate because these are unique factors for everyone. If you'd like to go on a holiday, then you must plan for it. You can include that in your budget in year 1. If it's going to distract you from your goal, then you can reduce it. So it is deliberate in order to allow you to, do some thinking also, and then, put in things as it fits your situation. If you've got some debt before even moving into the UK or coming abroad, and you are still committed to this debt, then you have to put that in your budget from year 1 and then plan for it. So some of these things are deliberate. Of course, also, I've not catered for emergencies or bereavements that may happen along this journey. You want to have savings for these things, emergency funds. These are deliberately left out because it may make it a bit more complicated. But I hope that this blueprint that I've shared, this is mine that I'm following. I hope it will guide you to have some ideas at least that, oh yeah, Shadrach talked about this. I can also do this. I'm aware of the trust that I have on this channel, and I hope not to betray it. So if you feel that, Shadrach, I'll benefit from a one-on-one appointment to discuss my situation better with you and then get some, guidance on that, I'm more than happy. If you've got some value from this video, I'll be really happy if you could like this video so that we can reach a lot more people. But even more, if you can subscribe to this channel so that I'm able to do a lot more. I hope, this video has helped you. And in the next couple of videos, I'll take these points that I've raised and break it down into detail. So remember to subscribe. Until the next video, I hope I've been able to serve you well today. Adios and God bless.